All right. I am so amped to have what might be the best possible media panel a person could convene. With, with the notable exception, I know that I don't want to. Sorry, I can hear my own feedback. Oh God, I can feel my own feedback. What's happening? What's happening? Okay, sorry. I don't want to exclude Josh Olson. Really wanted to be here with us tonight and wasn't able to make it for scheduling reasons. But this is like close to perfection, as close to perfection as a media panel can get. I'm so glad to have returning to the podcast Mtume Gant, Trevor Beaulieu, and Dr. Jared Ball to talk about a movie that has been at the top of my mind for a few weeks now. The new Paul Thomas Anderson film that I had Van Lathan on the podcast a couple of weeks ago to discuss, but we got caught up in politics and some conversations about other things and didn't get to, I'd say 50% of the topics that I wanted to get into. So I'm very glad to be able to discuss one battle after another with you lot. Who should I start with? Where should I begin? I see a mischievous grin coming from you, Mtume. So maybe let's start with you. Big picture. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How are you feeling about this one?
Meteoric thumbs down.
Okay. Wait, before I ask you anything further, is anyone here giving it a thumbs up?
No.
No? What a silence that is. Okay, that's interesting. I think that we should note for the record that that is really out of step with what the critical reception of the film seems to have been, but not out of step with what the box office results have been. New News reported this past week that it actually is very, very far from recouping what was spent on the film. And that particular narrative has been juxtaposed with how the success of Sinners was framed as a lack of success because it didn't earn as much money as people thought it might to recoup how much was made. Do you remember that Sinners discourse?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so this movie is like frankly not recouping what it was spent on it, and it doesn't seem to be charged with being unsuccessful in the same way that Sinners was.
Interesting. I mean, it's kind of like I feel it's kind of like how Michael Jackson, they used to always say whenever they had a story on him, he hasn't had a hit in like how many decades, but they would never say that about Paul McCartney or somebody. Sure. Yeah, it reminds you of that.
Sure. Okay, Professor Gant, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please continue. Why do we get a massive thumbs down?
Well, I mean, I would say it on two fronts. I think the major front is what I think Paul Thomas Anderson attempted to do was something that was A, out of his reach of understanding, and B, the fact that he could not recognize that it was out of his reach of understanding and that he had to kind of go into his own fantasias, exposed a lot of his really horrible liberal reads when it comes to leftism, what he thinks leftism is compared to the right wing, what he thinks of Black leftism, what he thinks of biracial or mixed race possibility for certain things. And then I think you put all that in the container of a director who I have to say, I do feel like he's been trying to lean to be a bit more accessible. I think Licorice Pizza was also in that kind of realm. And this is probably his biggest, most Hollywoodish film to date. When you look at kind of like the actual cinematic construction. So when I'm looking at it, I'm seeing something that's pretty stale, that just shows that he had a big budget, that he had great technicians who could do long steady cam shots to get Benicio del Toro walking down a hallway. He could get massive, tracking shots of people about to throw Molotov cocktails, and he can do these kind of really big budget invokings of the moment, but that are not very, very deep. So he could kind of, I feel like, tap into, I think, raw emotions that people have, but not really take anyone anywhere of substance. And it's just, to me, it's a massive failure. And it's for someone who's supposed to be like this great auteur director at like the peak of his powers. I was not surprised, honestly, at the his lack of ability to handle Black Revolution, and I'm gonna say left revolution overall, because I think there is some other stuff in there that I kind of want to throw in there, armed resistance and all that type of stuff. But I was a little shocked that I felt as how bad the movie was in terms of all it really was expensive. When I looked at it, I was like, this is just expensive.
Okay, and to me, that's fascinating, because I have heard, I mean, obviously I have joined a relatively small chorus of people who have criticized the politics of the film. But even within that cohort, I think many of us enjoyed the film as an entertainment vessel, especially if you lop off the first 30 minutes or so and like the last little bit, basically all the parts involving the Tiana Taylor character. But you're saying you fundamentally didn't even enjoy it as like an action film in the middle.
No, he's not a good action director. Like, I mean, there are great action directors. No, he's not one of them. It's not what he does. What used to be good about Paul Thomas Anderson, some of his movies I don't like, but say like There Will Be Blood was actually, I thought, was good storytelling. I thought his storytelling was really poor in this film. Like, characters, you would always see them like 3 moments like ahead or behind. I wanted like, okay, I need you to kind of go back a little bit and show me why they're arguing right now. Like the actual screenwriting I thought was really bad, or it could have been a good script and the edit was really bad. The movie's also way too long, and I'm a person who can watch 4-hour movies, but I felt the length of this one. I don't know how other people felt. I felt the length of this one. This one really just dragged because I couldn't. The characters were all very incomplete. And like, even in an action film, I need complete characters. I'm sorry. Like, that's just how I feel as a movie watcher.
Okay, so Trevor, I'm curious now to get the other two folks here's read on just the quality of the film overall before we get into the political aspects of it. T, did you also not even enjoy it as a film?
No. When I was watching it, I was kind of like, I kept looking up stuff. I'm like, is this a comedy? Like, what is this? This is just like, it was like kind of laughably bad to me. Like, I was very confused. You brought up the box office, and saying that, the box office diverged from the, critics. But what I found interesting was when I went to Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb and places and Letterboxd, and out of like the general public who did see it, it scored like really high, like up there with the critic reviews. And I was just very surprised because I thought, it felt like it was too farcical to really be like a serious action movie or drama. Like, it kind of had this absurdist element. That was like, Pynchon could be pretty absurdist, and it made me think of like Woody Allen's Sleeper and all the weird revolution stuff happening, but it wasn't comedic enough to be an outright comedy. It was too comedic to be serious, but it felt like too serious to be an all-out like farce. So tonally, I was just pretty confused by the whole thing because I felt like, I don't know if anyone would have felt this way out of all of us, but I felt like it was it took itself too seriously, but also was taking the piss out of too many things at once for me to even figure out what it was trying to say.
Can you think of an example just to ground this a little bit, T?
Well, just like everything, there's some things where I'm like, I'm thinking this is supposed to be like sexy or like when she's shooting the machine gun with the big pregnant belly out, and it just looked really cartoonish. I'm like, what are you doing? This is like ridiculous. I'm gonna use a pretty ridiculous, exaggerated example of what this movie felt like to me, but it felt like a porn parody of something. Like, have you seen when they have those porn parody commercials or things where it's like the porn parody of the Avengers or something, and it felt like if somebody made a porn parody called like Black Thighs Matter, and it's some white liberal guy goes to a protest and hooks up with a revolutionary there or something, right? And it's like, I feel like I use this ridiculous example on purpose because I'm like, if somebody saw that, people wouldn't sit there and say, well, let's pick apart how he got X, Y, and Z wrong. Everyone would clearly say, okay, this is some weirdo's kink. What is this weirdo's kink? But because it's Paul Thomas Anderson, like, we don't see Black Lives Matter. We think this has got to be a serious movie. So let me pick apart. I feel like it would be like watching like Mandingo and then trying to pick apart everything that got wrong about slavery in an academic way. But Mandingo's not about slavery. It's about what modern day white liberals in the 70s felt about their sexual fixation with Black people. And they're just using slavery as a way to explore it. So to me, like, I didn't really, like, I think he's a white Gen X liberal guy. I don't think he really can tell a difference between, or at least they pretend they can't tell a difference between Assata Shakur and Patrisse Cullors. Like to me, they're all kind of the same thing. I think he just sees, so he can have Jungle Pussy using her own real speech, saying all this stuff on the counter, because that's probably what they look like to him when he sees like Patrisse Cullors and company toast in front of a mansion. You know, like, I think people are making the mistake of thinking he's actually talking about Patrisse Cullors. I mean, he's actually talking about the real Weather Underground or the real Black Panthers. I just think he's a Gen X detached liberal white guy. He has reality bites, Fight Club style politics. That's what those guys have. And they're not very particularly curious. It's really about himself. And I think I think it's a movie about when you're attracted to something that you feel should horrify you. And you don't know how to deal with it. And
a metaphor for miscegenation.
Yeah. And I think like, I don't think white liberals like the ways in which they're like white conservatives, especially men. They like to think they're different. They can only explore that part of themselves by making a caricatured white male conservative. You know what I'm saying? So it's like American Beauty, like, you know, like a lot of white liberal guys and, like, you know, male feminists, they have a lot of the same misogynies and weird stuff happening that white conservative men have, but I don't think they like to own it. So they gotta like put it into this caricatured white conservative character. But the way that he makes the camera frame her body, I'm like, this, you can't put this on Sean Penn's character. This is you. You're feeling this. You're using this character as a way to act like you just, oh, is this guy that's like this? You know, like, I don't have these feelings, but I think both characters are Paul Thomas Anderson having a conflicted feeling.
So, and by both characters, you mean both Lockjaw and Leonardo DiCaprio's character? Yeah,
I think they're both, like, at the end of the, this is gonna sound very psychosexual and weird, but I feel like there's a lot of white guys. They have a lot of them have a weird relationship with dark-skinned Black women, where they feel like they're extra female and extra male, you know, and it's like there's a difference between being a man or a gentleman and male, and a lady and female. Like, you know, like, white people are men, like, they're gentlemen. Like, black men went to protest with signs like with I am a man. But the stereotype is that Black men are hyper masculine. Like, being a man, I think, is different than being male. Like, everyone knows Black men are extra male, but being a man, that's like, I have property, I have status, I have dignity, you know. And the same thing with being a lady, like a lady or a woman. You know, white women are the pinnacle of true womanhood, of ladiness, but minority women are like extra female. They're extra nurturing. They're extra. It's like a primitive kind of noble savage thing. And I think that scene of her with the gun and the big pregnant belly encapsulates that weird white male fixation. She's both extra female and extra male at the same time. And I think a lot of white guys, especially like liberal white guys who are kind of like a little bit nerdy, they think of the dark-skinned woman as like, she's more of a real like woman than a white woman, but she's might be more of a male than me.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I want to bring in
Sorry.
Dr. Ball. No, you're good. I think that this insight, this tension between being compelled by something, attracted to something that you're also horrified by, really does seem to map onto many aspects of the movie, including potentially its politics, not just the body of the Tiana Taylor character. So I want to turn to you, Jared, Dr. Ball, and get you to weigh in, because I watched your segment on this movie and you kept it kind of narrow in your analysis. So I want to invite you to weigh in on like the broader aspects of the movie, including but not exclusive to the racial dynamics that Trevor just sort of laid out. And also, please do give your opinion about whether or not you actually enjoyed it as a film. I'm curious, because I did. Apart from the first 30 minutes, which were one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, and the only time I've ever seriously contemplated walking out of a theater. Once it became just an action film, I was on board. But how did you feel about it?
No, no. First of all, no, I didn't. I couldn't just enjoy it as a film, even in some sort of silly way. By the time we got to any of that, I was so disturbed and dragged out of any potential relaxed state of enjoyment that, I mean, it was just so bizarre and uncomfortable and retrograde. I just was really in many ways infuriated. So I never got to a point where I could just say, "Oh, this is a fun film." First of all, I have to say, salute to all of us and any of us trying to do critical work, because I just spent a day in classes where just to give one example of the depths of our struggle, a student is convinced to this day that Chris Brown not only was the original author and songwriter of This Christmas.
Stop.
So I had to drag her out of that. But then once I played the Donny Hathaway original, she still stopped me to say that Chris Brown is a better singer. So
Stop.
I'm still recovering. You see where I'm still like, I still had to start by sharing that, because like that's the state of consciousness that many of our Black youth are engaging, starting with, where we have to engage. So I'm completely traumatized. My whole day.
Okay, Dr. Boba, hot take.
Yeah.
Chris Brown's version is not better than Donny Hathaway's version. But Chris Brown's version slaps.
You said it quickly. You said that you threw the butt in there quickly and softly. But it's like, no. There is no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. That's my thing. It doesn't matter if Chris Brown did it well. It's not Donnie. And we just need to, it's the same thing I'm saying. LeBron is cool. He's not Jordan. And we're in this whole that's what I'm saying. We're in this whole post-reality world. So that's where
not to get so Gen X about it. Like we can appreciate the Donny Hathaway original. But look, I have a very strong feeling that not every remake needs to get remade. Not every cover needs to be done. But there are covers that make it difficult to imagine a world where the cover doesn't exist.
No doubt.
Argue, like Stevie Wonder, I don't want to bore you with it, but I love you. I love you. I love you. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That was there's a remake of that by like a more contemporary R&B singer.
Where the Brand New Heavies did his song, I Don't Know Why I Love You, and I think it's as good as the original. And to be fair to this conversation, just to give a little bit of context, we started because I wanted to pay tribute, because I hadn't met with this class since the passing of D'Angelo. So I had to start with a little bit of a discussion of how important I think D'Angelo is as an artist and the bridge he was to a certain tradition and so on and so forth. And to give him credit, I said one of the few examples, just to show how much I honor D'Angelo, I think that he is the only person I can think of who did a Prince song better than Prince, who I hold in the highest esteem. And but his version, D'Angelo's version of In My Hair is I think better than the Prince original, which, I have a blasphemy playlist, and that's one of them. So it was in that context that we started this, and then this whole question of Chris, but Chris Brown to Donny Hathaway is just too far a jump for me to accept. So I just was really crashing out, as they say, all the way home.
Or Aretha Franklin's All I Need to Get By versus the original Marvin Gaye, Tammy Terrell. Like, I'm not saying it replaces the original, but Aretha does some things and introduces new vocal themes into the song. So I have to go back and forth. I just got to.
No, I'm with it. And I'm trifling enough to tell you that the Meth and Mary version of that is better than all of them.
See, so, and I'm not, and I would fight you down on that one.
But that's how I feel. The Meth and Mary version is to me. So, but anyway, I didn't mean to. Forgive me for the. I just was really stuck on that.
So you did not enjoy the movie. How do you feel?
No.
I think that T's focus on, and also I invite everybody to unmute because I think hearing you, if you laugh or react, I think it's good actually, and so you should just unmute yourself. But I like that T focused in on this image of Tiana Taylor shooting the gun with a fully pregnant belly. I didn't end up talking about that on my episode of the podcast about this. And even though it is very central to all of the marketing around the movie, it's a scene that I found myself wondering, like, what is the point of that? What am I supposed to take from that? And I think it is a potentially rich starting point for us in trying to figure out what the heck the movie is even trying to do politically. So feel free to start there or take this wherever you want.
I want to add something real quick too about the pregnant belly.
Just for a second, I just want to make sure.
No, it's very, very quick. I promise. It's very quick. Her pregnant belly kept coming up when it didn't need to, like when those peacekeeper type of guys are showing a picture of her. And it's her with a super pregnant belly. I'm like, every picture anybody has this woman is super pregnant. Like I just think it was so fixated on showing how fertile she was. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
So the way I end up taking that, especially now having time to reflect and having time to even, I didn't realize, or I didn't remember until I was watching your discussion with Van that in the original book, the characters are all white. Which just adds another layer to my whole problem with this film and Paul Thomas Anderson's clear issues with not only his attraction to Black women, but his marriage to a Black woman, or if folks want to be specific about it, and I think it's important in this case, a biracial Black woman and their daughter with whom he has a daughter. So I think that there's a whole lot he was dealing with in this film. So when I see the pregnant belly scene, I'm thinking this to me goes back to, and this is why I admit my bias when I saw the whole focus on the so-called mixed race or biracial daughter and the whole interplay that she was forced to play between the two exaggerated poles, pun intended, of these white men. Both of whom, I think it's important to note, express specific fetishization of Black womanhood. Both of them have a line where they specifically have to stop and say, I love Black women, not Black people, not Black liberation, not Black communities, Black women. And then so when we see this pregnant belly, to me, this is Paul Thomas Anderson, his fixation on it is because what's coming out of that belly is going to be another one of these troublesome mulatresses or mulattoes that he's going to have to deal with, that's going to drag him either out of the purity of whiteness or force him into the impurity of Black liberation and struggle and community. And he don't know what to do with all of that. So one, he's like, I'm just going to get drunk and high, which is one end of his personality, I think, on display in Leo DiCaprio's character. And the other side is, I'm going back to my roots, which is Sean Penn's character. And I'm going back to that white nationalist Christian, I got to be buttoned up and resist the temptation of that dark womanhood. And I think he was just struggling. And to put this so again, I just think he was recycling the tradition of this playing out in the context of film and the so-called mixed race or mulatto subject or centerpiece character and then I just have so many other issues with that. So I admit I was narrow in my initial review based on just that alone. I was just so infuriated by the depiction of revolution, which some of you have already discussed already, which is just he's just condemnatory of anything left and radical. And then but I was really blinded by this whole let me play out my racial fantasies and fears with this mulatto character who ends up relying in the end on white manhood to save her. And this and then not only white manhood, but the absence of a Black community, which I find to be incredibly troublesome. So yeah, but those are just some of my initial thoughts.
And I just want to add one thing kind of on that point. It was impossible for me to watch this film and not think about who Maya Rudolph's mother is, Minnie Riperton,
exactly.
who wrote one of the more hypersexualized songs, Lovin' You, right? Black woman, right? I mean, I love that song. But I'm saying
that's a hypersexualized song. I thought it was like a nursery rhyme.
Exactly. But married to a white man, things like that. And if you dig a little bit about her career, she was in these groups of multiracial, what's the group? Oh my God, who the great songs. The group she was in before that, like she's in a group of like
Minnie Riperton was in a
yes.
She was in a group beforehand.
Rotary Connection.
Oh wow!
She's in Rotary Connection.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, Rotary Connection and a group of mixed, Black and white people singing together, right? She was part of that generation. It was impossible to not consider that. I don't know much. There's probably a lot we don't know about Minnie Riperton. I wonder what Maya Rudolph even knows about her experience with her mother. And I don't know how much Paul Thomas Anderson is projecting based on what he knows from what she said and being involved with that family into creating these characters. It was impossible because, look, every director is going to, and screenwriter is going to take things. And like you said, because I think, Brianna, you've read the book, right?
I read a third of the book.
So he's changing a good amount of the book. I haven't read it. So if he's changing the good amount of the book, where is this stuff from his imagination coming from if he's not just using solely from the source material? So he's going to be using it from his life. He's going to be using it from popular ideas and his own ideology.
Let me clarify what's coming from the book and what's novel. I think that would be maybe helpful, and also give a little bit of plot foundation for folks who might be listening to this having not yet seen the film. So the film is, I would say, and correct me if you think I'm mischaracterizing this in any way, opens on a bunch of a mixed race revolutionary group in the vein of the Weather Underground, doing a bunch of revolutionary activities, including freeing what looked like immigrants from some kind of detention center, plotting to blow up some kind of pro-life group's building, robbing a bank to fund their efforts. And all of those activities ultimately result in the capture of the Tiana Taylor character and her choice to sort of bargain for her freedom by engaging freely in a sexual relationship with the Sean Penn character called Lockjaw. She is in a relationship with the Leonardo DiCaprio protagonist. She gets pregnant. It's not clear whose baby the child is. When she gives birth, she has reluctance about being a mother, abandons the family, and also ends up snitching on all of her comrades, resulting in the death of almost everybody in her group, except for Leonardo DiCaprio, who flees with the baby. Now, in the book, everybody is white. The Lockjaw character is actually two separate detective type characters. One who's a bit of a loose cannon, a detective who's kind of a DEA agent who's gone crazy because he's watched too much TV. There's like a commentary on like contemporary and modern culture and the boob tube and how it rots the brain. And he is constantly quoting like Hanna-Barbera cartoons and the like. And he's gone off the deep end and he's become obsessed with kind of capturing the Leonardo DiCaprio character. But there's another more sinister baddie who is more of the Lockjaw type, who the Tiana Taylor character voluntarily enters into a relationship with and is in a long-term relationship with and chooses again and again, even as Leonardo DiCaprio kind of chases her down, tracks her to Hawaii at one point to try to woo her back. And she just absconds with Lockjaw again from the hotel room to go and continue to live their lives together. So the abandoning of the movement, the betraying of the movement, the abandoning of family and all of those kinds of things are in the book. Although in the book, you get from her perspective that she misses her daughter. She wonders what's going on with her daughter's life. She has another child. There's much more depth from the perspective of the Tiana Taylor character's position. But all of the abandonment stuff is real. That being said, when you choose to make the character Black, which is a choice, right? It's a very concerted choice. And moreover, choosing to cast musicians in the role of the the snitch and in the jungle pussy role. Are we gonna get demonetized for saying jungle pussy?
Probably.
I mean, her video's on YouTube, so I don't know.
Okay. Sorry, yeah, Perfidia. Sorry, Perfidia is her name, the Tiana Taylor character name. I think to me is my big question mark. Let me just lay my cards on the table. I feel like it's a bid for authenticity. I think white people often think that hip hop artists and quote unquote urban culture is by default authentic and real and gritty and hard. And that instead of hiring actors to perform that sort of authenticity the way that he does for all of the white actors in the movie, I think there's a shortcut that sometimes casting directors, producers, et cetera, do, which is just to hire hip hop artists to basically play a version of themselves. And I think that part of what made the beginning of the movie so cringe for me, it's not Tiana Taylor's fault, but it felt like she was being tasked with just ad-libbing, with the presumption that her ad-libbing was going to be interesting and rich and authentic to the life of this leftist revolutionary person, when in fact that is a very different person from who Tiana Taylor, the singer and dancer, actually is.
Brianna, I want to say something. You said to Van about the ad-libbing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you from personal experience, because I was an actor in Hollywood for over a decade. When I was on Oz, right, they encouraged that I ad-lib my lines, because they said to me straight out, these white writers said straight out, we can't be authentically Black.
Well,
can you? So when you said that to Van, and Van was kind of pushing back, I was like, no. I can give you the personal anecdotal experience. And I'm sorry, if you talk to any Black actor who goes into these spaces where they have to play someone who is extra Black, right? In some kind of way, they will encourage that of you. And I totally agree. I mean, I remember going into auditions and seeing, rappers kind of come in and get roles or get consideration because of this kind of fake authenticity. But I have to say, the fact that the authentic idea of revolutionary is a rapper for Paul Thomas Anderson just shows you how crazy his white liberal mind is, right? And I will say, I would have still had I haven't read the book, but I would still have had a problem, even if they were white to a certain degree politically, because I don't know what history that's drawing from. Because if you read about the revolutionary movements and the ideology and how they kind of, this idea that they were having like wild sex with like their enemy does not add up to any of it, right? And I do think these are specifically Black women in this movie, but it is invoking some of the Bernadine Dorn stuff of like the statements and all that type of stuff, using, and Asada was never, and Tiana Taylor said she invoked Asada with this, and I was kind of like,
did she really?
Yeah, it was an inspirational thing, and I'm like, come on, like this is to do this. There is, I think the racial aspect thing is there, but I think there's like a large kind of liberal disdain for revolutionaries, and it's like you went to books like The Big Dance and all these really, really terrible source materials that painted all these people as these just absolutely insane people. And I'm like, no, like, look, the Weather Underground was not up in there shooting people and robbing banks. That's not what they did. It's not even close to what they did, right? And to kind of equate that, I'm watching the movie going like, well, what part of history is this? So if it's not any part of history, it's your fantasy. So why the fuck is this your fantasy? Like, this is, so I'm watching the thing and I'm having this like brain schism, because I'm like, either you think this is close to what history was, which if you read any real source will tell you this is off, or this is your fantasia about what rap and hip hop and the late 2000s or anarchists are like, and they're kind of like revolutionaries. And I'm like, dude, you don't know anything. You have been real disconnected because you've been famous since you were really young, and this is really bad.
Just to add to what you both have said, it's not even just that he cast white actors to play these other roles and rappers to play the black roles. It's that he picked people who were supposed to be the best of their generation,
right?
Like the top of the top of the white acting world to be in this film. And then it's just like, oh, for the black ones, not only just grab some rappers and then just say what you would say, just be, and then for her, but to hear her that Taylor apparently said, I was inspired by Asada. That is just diabolical.
But I think generationally, that's what a lot of black pseudo activists do. Like, I mean, Patrice Cullors, such as a trained Marxist, they constantly evoke figures that they're nothing like. They're totally neoliberal. I think that's just what this generation kind of does. I think everything is an aesthetic to them, so they don't really think of these things in a deeper way. Like, I'm not surprised Tiana Taylor did that, because I just think that's what everybody does now. Everything is like, you're like this because, like, Beyonce is invoking the Black Panthers because she wore an outfit, even though she's performing the Super Bowl. That's just, and then she can take the same song and
the same thing.
Yeah, basically. And then that same song is so empty in content that she can just repurpose it for Hillary Clinton and not change a single lyric, and put on pantsuits. Like, I just think that's what they do now. Like, nothing really means anything. It's, hey, we had an afro. The same thing. I was like a Black Panther. That's fine.
Can I provide a little evidence that I found? I read this in the context of the episode with Van, a quote about her ad-libbing, but I also subsequently to recording that episode found this clip where they're talking about how Tiana Taylor was tasked with ad-libbing. Here you go.
Oh. Yeah, this was like years ago. And I had like this long, luxurious wig. You did? And Diana was performing. And, yeah. Mm-hmm. The wig was really. I mean, it was Diana. Mm-hmm. Diana's part. Yeah. It's crazy because I get so nervous with Miss Diana. Actually, she was at his recent birthday. I don't want to say the age. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the age. But she was at his most recent birthday.
You say the age.
TBD, right? TBD, to be determined. And I remember he told me she was going to be there, and I changed my whole outfit. I said, "Oh, Miss Diana."
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so I get a theme when I know I'm going to meet her.
That makes sense.
So when we first met, that's a full circle moment, because when we first met, it was at Miss Diana's birthday, and I had on this Diana Ross kind of dress, and I had the hair. And I was like living when she was performing. I might have hit him with my hair. I either bumped him or like hit him with the hair. And I turned around. He was like, I was like, and we just started chewing this invisible gum, and we never stopped. Like, to this day, we still do it.
Wait, did you speak or did you just look and chew?
I mean, we eventually spoke.
You did eventually.
If that's your first encounter with Leonardo DiCaprio, as funny as it was, and it's like, I already play so much.
Did you know that Tiana was going to be cast in this? Paul was talking about it, and I was like, okay, she's going to bring the heat. This character needed to have an element of improvisation to it, and craziness and wildness. And you don't know where you're going to go. She's incredible in this movie.
Okay, do you see the whole dynamic?
Oh, yeah.
In every interview, I watched a bunch of cast interview clips for this. Every interview is like that. Everyone's just kind of watching her like she's a wild thing, that unpredictable thing in the room, not really engaging with her substantively. And she's not, like, it's like they're on two different planets and everyone's just kind of reacting to her. And that's what it felt like in the movie too.
Well, it feels very patronizing.
Yes.
Like it's like, it's gonna sound messed up, but it's kind of like a Make-A-Wish kid. Like, you don't really talk to them the way you talk to everybody else. You don't really respect them fully intellectually, so this is kind of patronizing, just nod at everything they say. And it felt like when the child actor is sitting in a room with the adult actors, and the energy changes the way they direct it toward the child actor. That's what it felt like to me. But I mean, even the movie, she felt like there was a way. But there's a way that white men used to deal with Grace Jones. I always found very icky. You know, like she's kind of like an animal.
Eartha Kitt's another one.
Eartha Kitt's
like
another
a beautiful
one.
jaguar.
But yeah, they both have this kind of feline type. All three of them, Eartha Kitt, Grace Jones, and Tiana Taylor, they'll have this kind of high cheekbone feline type appeal. And this is kind of like the Black Panther, the jaguar, is very sexy. It takes a real man to be able to tame it and walk it, you know, like it's walking with the panther. But there's also the fear that any second it might tear my face off. And there's a thrill that I get from that. And that's what I felt with the movie. I always felt it, even like when Grace Jones was a Bond girl, it's very different. How she almost sexually takes Roger Moore rather than vice versa. It's a one time where Roger Moore, James Bond is not really seducing, and the woman is a woman succumbing in a feminine way and surrendering. She almost like rapes James Bond. And I just want to ask you, in the book, is the gender confusion as strong when Perfidia is white? Because I think that's another thing these guys do is whenever white men want to explore their sexual confusion, they like a dark-skinned woman, you know. And Leonardo's kind of like a cuck. I mean, his role, he's kind of a man to her in that, you know, there's like, you know, he likes black girls and there's a way he's a man, but he's also like a house husband. There's this way that I feel like white men think they can explore their feminine side with a dark-skinned black woman that they can't with the white woman, because she's both extra woman and extra man, you know. Like, why does, I see this all the time in these movies when they have these dark-skinned women, white men pairings, why do they have to have her penetrate Sean Penn from behind?
So a couple of things. There might be a flashback in the book that I haven't gotten to yet where they kind of go through their revolutionary activity together the way that we get in the first 30 minutes of the movie, but I'm not there yet. Sorry. I meant to finish it by the time I got to this, but I didn't. My bad. So there is no like sense of, so far as I've read, them going through these revolutionary activities together. But it's interesting that you asked that question, T, because the book does open with the idea that Leo's character is to stay on like disability. He has to maintain that he's crazy for the government. And so once a year, he dresses up in drag and hops through the window of a local store in the Pacific Northwest town that he lives in. And everybody knows he does it once a year. The film crew calls the news crews, local news in advance, and they set up and they wait for him there. And it's almost like a mini local holiday. And it's so anticipated that the owner of the store has swapped out glass with sugar glass so that they don't have to keep paying for replacement and so that nobody gets hurt. So there is that element actually of literal cross-dressing in the book, but it's not in good faith. I mean, it's not like he's sexually confused at all. He's doing it to demonstrate that he's crazy. And again, they're all white, so there's none of this.
Yeah, I think it's more.
They just have a normal sexual. There's like a normal. There's nothing. There's no subtext to their relationship.
Yeah, I think it's more overt that Sean Penn's character is like sexually confused. Like when the daughter taunts him about how tight his shirt is, and he's like, "Are you saying I'm gay?" You know, and whatever. So yeah, I think it is a little more overt in Sean Penn's character. I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio's character necessarily sexual orientation confused, but I think he is kind of confused about masculinity in a.
Well, he is cucked in both.
Yeah, he's literally cucked. You're right. You're right.
In the book as well, he wants Perfidia back, and he chases her down, and she's very dismissive of him, and she very much chooses the lockjaw character. It's not as though in the movie and let's maybe talk about this. Let's shift to talking about this. In the movie, they obscure the nature of their relationship a little bit. Initially, it seems as though she is sort of forced to engage with him sexually because he catches her in the midst of her trying to commit a crime. And there's a deal that you'll be let free if you engage with me sexually. Then the actual sexual act, she's dominant. She, you know, in this different scene, has him at gunpoint, you know, demands that he get hard, crawl around on the floor, et cetera, et cetera. And then,
but also let's add that a gun is a phallic symbol.
Yeah. And then she's in witness protection. And she escapes, she flees witness protection, seemingly not wanting to be with him and going off to Mexico or wherever she ends up. And to be so clear, in the book, she chooses him. And so I wanted to put to you all what you make of what the movie is trying to say with the way the snitching is portrayed, the relationship with Lockjaw, what you make of the sexual dynamics between Perfidia and Lockjaw, and what, if anything, that's supposed to say about the broader revolutionary message of the movie.
Just quickly, if I can, to me the message about revolution is just not to be taken seriously. It's a background. I took it to mean it was like a background vehicle just for all this other psychosexual, racial, settler, colonial nonsense could play out. That Paul Thomas Anderson is, if I may say so, seems clearly struggling with in terms of his own. So, but as I understood this sexual dynamic between Taylor and Lockjaw is there's that scene after the one you're just talking about where there is the sexual act takes place, she's dominant, but then she leaves, he allows her to leave because it is meant to be in exchange for her relative freedom. And there's that shot of her walking away where the camera closes in on her face, and I thought we're meant to see her attempting to walk away defiantly, but showing that she has some a vulnerability in her face, showing that she has given in to this act that she didn't want to do in order to gain her relative freedom. And then when she escapes finally to Mexico, to me, that was the final clear declaration that she's not serious about being a revolutionary, because she snitches and does all this other stuff and then just dips and abandons her child, which I took as Paul saying, please, yes, I want the experience with Black women, and I want this mixed race child, but I do not want Black people. That's how I took it. So please go to Mexico. And now to find out that this is not how it plays out in the book, it just reaffirms for me my initial thoughts of all of this, that so she's meant to leave. She doesn't take revolution seriously. She doesn't take Black people seriously. She doesn't take her child seriously. She doesn't take her relationship with DiCaprio seriously. And she also does not want Lockjaw. That was just a transactional, really it's an R-word experience, because she couldn't say no and be free. So it's and I think that expression we're meant to see is her conveying that. But that's how I took it. That's what how I understood that relationship and what was happening with her relationship also with her daughter and this supposed revolution that we never get defined. There's no real discussion of it. Black power is just defined as a woman shooting a gun aimlessly into the air.
Yes.
And there's no seriousness. There's no nothing. Like, what are they trying to do? So it's like, I mean, it was just, so that's what, that's how I took it.
Yeah. I want to just, your point about how like she seems to be driven by sex. The fact that there's no real motives, that like, is she attracted to him? Is she just using him to flip? Like, okay, I guess the idea that all that she cared about was the sex and that she was willing to trade the sex for whatever without any consequences, that she didn't care about Leonardo DiCaprio beyond sex. She wasn't invested in the revolution. There's a scene where he's trying to like rig a bomb and teach her how to do it, and she's like not interested, spreading legs, touching herself on the sofa, and eventually straddling him, and like that. Like the point is the sex. It again feeds into this idea that she's this like frankly animalistic trope that's very dehumanizing. And again, I was like literally sitting there offended in my seat. That being said, I want to push back a little bit on your comment, Dr. Ball, about not wanting to be able to access Black women without Black community, because there is this choice to, and I want to know what you think about this. One, include the fact that she comes from a line of revolutionaries, include the scene where as Leonardo DiCaprio is fleeing with the baby daughter, he's kind of taking her from the grandmother character. And there's this choice to include a lineage of Black revolutionaries and to put into the context of the movie that she comes from somewhere and comes from a tradition. And then later in the movie, of course, these Black nuns end up being the salvation for the daughter, at least in the short term, and the Regina Hall character, whom I have no qualms with in terms of Black female representation, also is notably one of the more competent, able figures in the film who plays a significant role in saving the daughter's life. So what do we make of all of that?
Well, first of all, Regina Hall might be quickly approaching unquestionable status, like unassailable status, just in humanity. So we could just. But, so the way I took that though is that yes, you see the lineage of this Black woman's family, but but they're not to be included in DiCaprio or the daughter's life. And that to me was clearly demonstrated by the nuns themselves, who are hostile to the daughter, and they're hostile to the betraying, treacherous mother. So it may be the salvation for whatever this amorphous revolution, this movement is supposed to be, but for the daughter, for the so-called mixed race daughter, they hate her. And to me, that was Paul Thomas Anderson.
The enmity comes from the fact that her mother was a snitch, and they don't know how much she knows about that. And they ultimately choose to protect her because it's clear, okay, well, it's not the daughter's fault. She didn't know she wasn't a part
all
of
that
it.
is well and good if, as in the book, they're all white, or if they were all Black. But in this dynamic, to me, it's Paul saying, no, it's the traditional post-loving, certainly by the 1990s, desire of usually white women who have children with Black men to separate by label and by geography those children from the Black community and develop this biracial, multiracial category. So it's to me, that's how I took it. It's Paul Thomas Anderson saying, yes, you may come from a revolutionary line of Black women, but that ends here. There will be no more connection, and your mother's going to leave, and you're going to be with me, and they hate you, and they're not going to be part of this reclamation project.
Sure, but don't you have to reckon with the fact that there is a contemporary group of Black revolutionary women who are still operating as revolutionaries, if somewhat isolated from society in this nunnery, and who are deployed and who do willingly take this half Black girl in and do their best to keep her safe. And Regina Hall certainly goes out of her way to do the same thing. I mean, how do you? I don't know that. I don't know that I.
But they're not the salvation for the girl, and then she ends up relying on and leaving with the white male father figure.
So I think
there is no community involvement, and they're severed from her going forward.
Am I wrong? But doesn't Regina Hall snitch also?
What do you mean?
Doesn't when she's interrogated by the guy and he says you got to give him up, doesn't she give up also? Doesn't she also? DiCaprio.
I don't recall, but there's a lot of snitching in general. I noticed that happened.
I looked
over and over.
I read it that Regina Hall's character also snitches. I got that
happen at the nunnery.
Towards the end of the film.
I know the scene he's talking about, but I can't remember if they kind of had it happen off screen, but it's kind of implied that she did. But there's about 4 or 5 snitching moments, different reasons for each one. Yeah.
But to get it back to that point, I just think at the end of the day, they all look a bit just degenerate and silly. Like that's the issue. Like to Jab's point, I think a lot of it is just in the construction and the conceit that Paul Thomas Anderson is setting up overall, right? Yes, they make these choices, right? And Regina Hall, props to her, though I'm a little mad at her for doing this movie. I'm sorry. I'm at I am. I'm like, look, I've been in this thing for a long time, and they're defending Paul Thomas Anderson, singing his sweet nothing. So they'll do anything with him, and it just bothers the shit out of me the way they fawn over it. It kind of reminds me of the movie that I just watched, that he just sit up here and just really, I mean, in many ways, I have to say it. Tiana Taylor's character is a bit of a minstrel. It's a bit of a minstrel. I mean, we have to just call it out for what it is, right?
Yeah.
The fact that it's being defended. So I think a lot of it is just in the setup. So when audiences watch it, it kind of becomes like one of the sinners debates about, well, you can't really trust them light-skinned folk, right? What is it going to invoke in the audience, right? Yeah, man. See, look, man, should have left that girl with with her white father. The audience is going to have these kinds of reactions to it. They're not going to, or people who are mixed will say, you know what, I can't go up in that spot because they're not going to like me anyway. It's just going to like re-invoke a lot of the shit that we're trying to repair in the Black community. That's bad. It's just really bad news, right? You know, and I want to, as a couple of things, I mean, to your earlier point, like, to me, the thing with Tiana's character, it just kind of goes back into this idea that the whole revolutionary period was just individualist adventurism, that they were all trying to get their rocks off. And that's like the conservative and liberal charge, right? And all the books and everything, they're just adventurous. That's all it was. And when I'm watching those first 30 minutes, that's all I'm getting. She kept saying, like, I'm going to cause the revolution. I'm going to do this. And I'm like, look, man, if we're basing this on a historiography of Black women revolutionaries, of the Assata Shakurs, of the Safia Bakaris, that is not consistent to anything they ever lived. And if you're making up, like I say, if you're making up a fantasia of it, it's just not that. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I don't know if Paul Thomas Anderson was trying to do this in his head, but I think the sexual attraction between the left and right is this idea that liberals have, that left and right are kind of the same.
Yes.
Right. It's horseshoe theory, right?
Yes.
It's the horseshoe theory shit, right? And at the end, I remember, like, you probably saw this, Brianna, when they were calling certain people in protest alt left. You remember that? Yeah, remember the alt left charge that was coming out for a while?
I think I have a crown somewhere. I'm the queen of the alt left.
Right, you were the queen of the alt left. Somebody when they said, so you're just admitting that you think we're the same as right wingers, and it's the same liberal charge, which is wild because I think the liberal side and the right wing are pretty much the same. But you know, that's just me. but I think that's that. And I think I had one other thing, but yeah, I wanted to throw those in there before I forgot.
Yeah, it's worth noting that the book came out in 1984. No, sorry, it came out in the 90s, but it was set in 1984. And
which makes more sense, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Which makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it was set in the beginning of the Reagan era, or after Reagan was reelected. And it was a commentary on what happened to all of the 60s radicals now that they were in this Reagan era hyper consumerist conservative period of time. And the book, again, I don't know that the book was very clear about how it felt about the 60s hippies, because the book does make a mockery of the idea of this pothead who's on the dole, taking government money by pretending to be crazy. And the choice of making these characters who are kind of hapless and snitching and washed up and kind of outside of time and outside of culture may or may not be perceived to be a fair critique of a kind of superficial flower power progressivism coming out of the 60s. It may or may not be a fair critique. I might also want to defend the 60s people on some level, but that's not really my fight. But you can see that if you're using that as scaffolding for a movie, the choice to basically replace the flower power, I love pot generation with actual radicals that are fighting for things with very high stakes, right? So the movie opens with, again, we're at a detention center. These are people in cages. I also just want to throw out there that I don't remember seeing them actually free anybody from those cages. I'd have to do a rewatch of the movie. I remember being pissed off.
I think they put them in a truck, right? Don't they take them in a truck at the beginning?
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so they're freeing people from detention centers. There's a phone call to some building saying, get everybody out because we're going to blow it up because you guys are pro-life. Like the stakes are high. But the movie, despite those stakes being so high, is completely unconcerned with the why, the morality of what they're doing, or the politics of what they're doing. And they're borderline, they come right up to the edge of like, are they actually wrong? Are they wrong to blow up this pro-life center? And certainly the choice to then have this scene where they are robbing a bank. They got Jungle Pussy up on the counter of the bank, ripping her mask off for God knows what reasons, like former surveillance in the country, giving her spoken word, Dead Poets Society ass speech on the counter of the bank, talking about this pussy don't pop for you. And then while she's doing all of that, that's a choice, black security guard who's prostrate on the floor, starts a little bit to reach for his gun, and Tiana Taylor blows him to smithereens. Now, you can't tell me that that's not an intentional choice to cast doubt on the morality of what these people are doing.
Of course.
I think one of the things with this, though, is you got to think about this as a white male Gen Xer. And the white male Gen X, the video store auteur, like, you know, who, you know, learned his art from watching VHS and whatever, like, there's certain type of nihilistic politics that they have. This is ghost world politics. This is Office Space politics. This is Fight Club politics. This is
Fight Club had better politics in this movie. Hot take.
No, but Fight Club was actually, I think, self-aware and parodying this. Like, we had no war, we had no this, we had no.
It's
big
still
fight.
very nihilistic, though.
Yeah, it's still very nihilistic.
It's nihilistic.
Even as it's accurately diagnosing the problem, it's still perpetuating it. And like, because everyone in this panel, like kind of leans left, I think there's this. I'm saying that just to create as general umbrella as possible. We just get caught up in how it doesn't believe in the left, but it doesn't believe in anything. Like, think like American Beauty, or Heathers or anything. The idea is being part of anything. The jocks, the preppies, the nerds. Believing in any community, you're a fool for believing in anything. The hippies were hypocrites. The yuppies are hypocrites. Reagan's a hypocrite. The salvation is in family and individualisam. Like, because this isn't nice.
That's believing in something, though.
That's what I was going to say. It's advocating
believing in something.
Yeah. Well, don't believe in systems. Don't believe in communities. The nuclear family will save anything.
No. I actually think.
What then, T, do you make of the whole Benicio del Toro Latino Underground Railroad plot in the middle of the movie?
I'll be honest, that I wasn't too sure about. I don't want to make a theory just to make it. I'm open to whatever you guys think about. Maybe it's just the popular noble savage fetishism of the day, you know, to partake in, and he's just giving a nod to that, or maybe there's something deeper there. I really don't know. I was stuck on that one, I'll be honest.
Because it was good, right? Like, I agree with this commenter who says that's the best part of the movie. That, to me, was both narratively coherent and morally coherent. None of the ambivalence that pollutes the rest of the script and what was he trying to say and why was it motivated.
I think it could just be noble savageness, like, you know, just this kind of elevating the Latino and the primitive values that I wish we as white suburban, like, I think it could have been a fetishism in and of itself. I don't want to rush to reward it.
It's also a little bit of a magical Latino,
yes,
you know, thing, helping the white character transcend and get over and get to the next level. And yes, the people themselves as a subject aren't really there. There's no and that's why I was sort of saying to T's point that there is an advocacy for a point here. There isn't a call for the liberal mainstream existence of American society that Benicio del Toro's people want to get to. That's why we see him in the dojo. He's leading a relatively middle class life. Yeah, he's got his Underground Railroad thing, but the goal is to get to this Americana and have your little karate class. And then, because to Brianna, your point that we don't really see, do they free people? Do they not free people? Are they successful? Are they right? Are they wrong? I think all of that is a smokescreen for what Paul Thomas Anderson is really trying to display here with his contradiction, his struggle around what does the white settler colonial project end up looking like? Is it the savagery of Lockjaw? Is it the more liberal, let's get high and smoke, you know, DiCaprio, who obviously is his preference, and that's the goal, that's the savior, and everything else is kind of irrelevant. We're not really trying to build with the Latinos and their struggle. We're definitely trying to erase the black community, and no revolution is taken seriously.
I gotta complicate this, because to me, the fact that the Benicio del Toro guy is like a kind of a magical Latino sensei character does not make it untrue that we had a example of revolutionary competence in that character that is in stark contrast to the choice to render the French 75 revolutionary group, to which all of our main characters belong, so empty-headed and incompetent.
Which makes the noble savage argument even stronger.
Wait a minute. In a way that I think demands a critical reading of Paul Thomas Anderson's view of a certain kind of revolution. I'm sorry, I don't think it's an accident that you should do it this way, I'm going to render this in a positive light, comes from a fundamentally non-violent and a revolution of evasion. Oh, we're just trying to stay free. We're just trying to escape the cops. We're just going to stay in the shadows. And the affirmative fight for revolution that involves guns and violence and actually liberating people from the clutches of the state is the one that he's made so uncomfortable by.
But it not just involves that. It involves intellectualism, like the way that he frames the French 75 struggle. They have a lot of procedure. There's there's a comedy of the passwords and everything. The Latinos just have family and vibes. Like, they don't have a very complicated, complex.
They have a structure. This is where I agree with Brianna.
He said get the protocol, and then they move,
And white supremacist ideas, there's tiers to the races. I think I would literally see that as black people are the bottom, right? The mixed race black girl, who we have not talked about Willa yet, is slightly above. The Latinos are probably above the black people. This is like old colonial bullshit when you watch it.
But I miss the protocol.
Indigenous don't exist at all.
Right, exactly. Because
wait a minute, that's not true either. We get that indigenous guy. We'll come back to that. Who's
right?
You're right.
And then decides to die of the real noble savage of the movie. The penultimate noble savage.
You're right about that.
Who has absolutely no motivation to his character except for randomly deciding not just to take Willa away to safety, but to sacrifice himself for no reason in a gunfight.
It's terrible.
Well, she's the magical mulatta. She put her spell on him.
But let's come back. I'm glad you brought up T, because I really wanted to talk about this with Van, and we ran out of time. Apart from the first 30 minutes, the other aspect of the movie that made me so angry and was like, this guy hates revolutions. This guy hates revolutions.
He hates politics. I think he hates organized politics.
Was that whole kerfuffle around the effing password and playing as a joke. So just to set it up a little again for people who haven't watched. Leonardo DiCaprio's character is on the run. He keeps trying to get in touch via phone call. It's like all analog. Back to the French 75, because there are protocols for where to go to flee, safe houses, and the like. But to get reconnected, he can't just call the number. He has to provide a password. And because he's so drug-addled after years of smoking pot, he can't remember the password. He's increasingly frenetic because he doesn't know where his daughter is. She's off in the custody of Regina Hall's character. Okay. I believe so the guy she's talking to the end of the phone is a white coded or white Latino guy that's named Josh. And the movie plays the idea that Josh is so fixated on procedure that he's going to let this guy's daughter die and not just get him back in touch with his revolutionary comrades. And the movie pretends that Josh is the absurd one for not giving out the secret hideout to a random person who doesn't know the password, as opposed to DiCaprio being the one that lacks revolutionary discipline, who at very least should have remembered this basic password. And it pissed me off because it felt very much to me like Josh was some kind of stand-in for white leftist DSA guy. And let me not be the one to die on the hill of the white leftist DSA guy, but to the extent that it was like an allegory for condemning the broad left for being absurd and feckless and obsessed with procedure, I was pissed off. Moreover, in conjunction with that moment, there was that other snitching moment that I think somebody alluded to, where the feds descend on the daughter's school to try to get her. She's already been extracted, but they are cross-examining her friends, trying to see if one of them will flip and tell where she is. And there is a trans friend or a non-binary friend who ends up being the one that flips.
Yeah.
And not only is the non-binary friend the one that flips, there are a bunch of jokes made throughout the movie about the nature of them being non-binary or having whatever pronouns they have, both by Leonardo DiCaprio and by in the context of the interrogation scene. And these are all choices. And in fact, they're so pleased with those jokes about pronouns that they include them in the character in the preview, in the trailer, if you noted that. And maybe I'll try to pull it up while you guys are talking. And I saw an interview with Leonardo DiCaprio where he specifically alluded to being attracted to the idea of this kind of like a Pacific Northwest liberal hillbilly, like a MAGA lefty. To your point about horseshoe theory, he was attracted to the idea that there are these people in the country, or at least a character that he imagines, that is very radical in their politics in a left-oriented way, but very regressive with respect to their social politics. And that was visibly exciting to Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor. And that was part of the appeal. Okay, so what do you make of that slate of choices? And do you agree with my sort of feeling, or disagree, that this seemed to, again, to be open antagonism against specifically left politics and the idea of left institutions, again, in contrast to the sort of noble immigrant community that we saw with the Benicio del Toro plotline?
I feel like
I definitely think you're right about the whole point about the password thing. That was very clear, and I in the moment felt very much the same thing that you're saying here. I was like, he's the one doing the right thing. Why is he being depicted as negative? But by the end of the film, of course, again, we're meant to see DiCaprio as the heroic figure. He gets to save his daughter.
Does he?
He gets to, yeah.
Does DiCaprio save his daughter?
I mean, saves. He's there.
She
he's there
shoots.
to help. She saves herself.
By save. No. But by save, I'm sorry. You're right. First of all, by save, I mean the ultimate saving of her as she collapses in his arms and they walk off together is really what I mean. That he represents the safe return home. He's the home base that she's getting back to. Yes, she gets to kill her assailant and do all of that, and that's all wonderful to see, and I love it and all of that. But it's to get back to DiCaprio, who is seen as the goal, the destination. And that's what I think is meant to be conveyed by Paul Thomas Anderson and all the lovers of this film, is that revolution is not serious. You can reconcile your attraction by the savage when you get caught up in this moment, and then if you end up having a child through that, you can bring her back. She'll come back to you, and you can jettison the black family and the revolution and the politics and all of that. And because the DSA is silly, the black revolutionaries are silly, the revolutionary lineage has cut you off and abandoned you as a traitor, and they're all silly gun-toting nuns anyway. And and even though I'm drug ridden and I'm sorry, what'd you say? I missed it. Sorry.
And they're dead. They all die.
And then they're dead. Right. That's right. That's right. And even though I'm just barely sober enough to get here and to drive off with you or walk off with you, this is where you want to be. And I think it's even better that it's proven that biologically he's not her father. That even when I'm not your biological father, I am where you want to get home. That's the home you want to get back to.
And what do you make of the fact that in the final scene of the movie, she hops in the car and jets off to solve some it seems like she's going to be a crime fighter for revolution or something. They're not really clear about where she's going, but yes, they're back at their home. But her little radio, AM/FM radio goes off. Something's going on somewhere. Ducati car.
Weird.
I gotta hop in the car and go join the fray.
Is she part of an organization? Is she part of an organization, or is she just like Batman and the bat signal goes off?
Feels like Batman.
Yeah. See, but I think it's more about he just believes in not being part of organizations. He just thinks that you can just be with your family. Like the Gen Xer has this weird rebellion against Leave It to Beaver, but fixation of it as a home base he could return to. Like a lot of their hero's journey is
call it liberalism, dude. It's liberal individualism. I don't think that is just Gen Xers. That comes from also a previous generation of people who said, "Why are y'all doing this lefty shit?" It's a long lineage of it, right?
No,
I don't think it's just them.
I don't think it's just them, but I think it's a particular manifestation because they have a hatred of the boomers and the hippies, and I think that's in this. That's why I keep it at Gen X. Like, you guys were stupid and you guys were hypocrites. It's family ties. Like, family ties is a very specific dynamic. There's the hypocrite parents who are in the suburbs and their son is a Republican, but does it really matter because they're a family? It didn't mean anything. I can be an ex-hippie parent. You can be a Republican kid, but you know, the nuclear family and the suburbs at the end of the day that's where we can retreat to, and we don't need to form community with the world. We don't need to really be a part of systems. And
T, can I ask you about the systems point? Because I'm sort of obsessed with this the immigrant plot, because we do get another level of counterexample there where, so remember, as they're fleeing with the very competent Latinos, the very incompetent Leonardo DiCaprio gets caught by the police anyway because he falls off a roof. And one of the moments that I think I would agree with you, T, is very tonally off to me. Critics I saw writing it up as very hysterically funny. Like, there were chuckles in the theater, but I felt it was like tonally confusing when in the midst of this, he falls off the roof, whatever. And he gets captured and he gets tased and he's detained. Okay. Remember how he gets out. He's been taken to a hospital for medical treatment because he was tasered and he fell off a roof. And the nurses, presumably sort of Latina nurses, are in on the plot with the Underground Railroad folks, and they basically tell him what to say so he gets transferred to a place where he can escape from the hospital.
I think it's possible. I think it's possible that in a way he kind of doesn't respect them enough to even be cynical about them. Because I feel like with a lot of magical Negro movies, you can have a very cynical thing happening, but then out of nowhere, you like you look at something like Dark Knight, the Dark Knight movie. The thing is very, very cynical, but in the heart of the cynicism, you can have a black convict be the magical Negro that transcends
okay, but this is the Green Mile, right? Like, this is he chose to write into the script that the Latinos were so organized that they have emissaries within the hospital that they can deploy and to literally free people who are in police custody. That's pretty deep. That part of the movie,
but what becomes their main narrative function, though?
But
helping Leonardo DiCaprio, they're magical Latinos.
But wait a minute, that part of the movie, as a leftist, is exactly what I want to see on the screen. I want to see people understand that to the extent that we are constrained by the law, by the police, by these institutions,
he did the right thing for the wrong reason.
Wait a minute. The extent that we're constrained by all of those things, it's because we are all going along with it. And any given police officer, any given nurse, any given public servant, we can all decide not to go along with authoritarianism and work with each other for substantive justice instead of with them. And they were organized to be able to do that.
Only if you're freeing a white man.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Exactly. Only if you're freeing a white man.
Wait a minute. You guys, you don't think it's overly simplistic? Yes, Leonardo DiCaprio is our protagonist. Yes, it's the plot device, yada, but the point is, institutionally,
that's not the read that people are going to get when they're watching the film. They're going. That's narratively what happens.
No, the read of this movie.
I think it's like a stop clock. The stop clock is right, but it's not right for the right reasons. It just happened to be right.
The read of this movie is that everybody clapped like seals and thought it was a great action movie, and nobody saw any of the things that we're talking about today in the movie. So that's that. But as a leftist, this whole conversation is how I read the movie, not how anybody else read the movie. And I read the movie as that being a genuinely legit revolutionary moment that really put in contrast. It shows that Paul Thomas Anderson knows how to write that and can choose to write that if he wants to, and made very different choices about how to depict the ravenous, gun-toting, pregnant, black, libidinous beasts.
So, but I think both can be true. I think Mtume's point and Trevor's possibly is correct that there's a hierarchy racially that Anderson is playing with, And within that hierarchy, you can show the elevated organizational skills of the Latinos, again, only in service of Leo DiCaprio. They're not doing it. First of all, we only see that they have this because DiCaprio's behavior has revealed this, has caused them to be,
right? The rest of Latinos don't get caught because they're all hyper competent.
But we only see this happening because of DiCaprio's involvement, and then the end result of the whole demonstration of their organizational capacity is to get him out. It's not to free other people. We don't.
Benicio actually sacrifices himself for Leonardo DiCaprio at the
literally.
He does.
Literally.
That is, I think that's all that is problematic, and right back to the movie treating these people as noble savages.
Brianna, can I ask you a question?
Wait a minute. None of that to me undermines the reality that we saw an example of a sort of revolutionary practice and organization. What was it? T, you said he doesn't care about organizations. He doesn't care if people belong to organizations. I agree in other parts of the movie, but in this part of the movie, he very much wrote a very organized community that's so organized that not only are they able to extract large numbers of people from an apartment complex in advance of an ICE raid of sorts, but to even extract someone who has fallen into police custody because of their embeddedness in our medical institutions.
Brianna, can I ask you a question? Isn't it possible that one bad tendency was in conflict with another bad tendency and accidentally undid the other one? Because to me, I think it's possible that, he wanted to do a noble savage, the racial hierarchy that Mtume was talking about, and it was something that was in tension with his other negative tendency, and he accidentally made a good message against the other tendency. The same way, like, somebody can be pretty cynical or whatever, but in their effort to write a magical Negro, somebody could also argue, wow, he showed that Black people can be very human. This person made an argument for
no. You guys,
something.
This is not that deep. T, you literally said the words, he doesn't believe in organizations. And I am telling
but he also believes in noble savages. As I'm saying, he might not believe in one thing, but the other thing he believes in temporarily short-circuited.
Wait a minute. T, were the Latinos or were they not organized?
Were they not noble savages as well? Like, I think two things.
I don't give a shit.
Guys, no, but I think two things could be intention.
No arguments about noble savage. Yes, there's noble savages. They're all noble savages. That's not what was argued. I have no pushback against that. The argument you made was that there's no organization in the movie. That is not interested in people who belong to organizations.
Okay, so I will amend it.
Okay.
There was organization here because he was so intent on the noble savage part that he temporarily suspended the other part. Like,
okay, so answer me this, T.
Yeah.
Why, if he loves a noble savage, why weren't the Black people made into noble savages? Why did we get pussy popping, ghetto fabulous? Frankly, sorry.
Because because they're at the lowest end of the spectrum. I think everything that we've
hold on.
There are choices being made here. He demonstrated the capacity to do a noble savage. He demonstrated the capacity to have someone who was organized and competent. And then he made the choice not to make the actual leftist revolutionaries in the movie who had some kind of violent revolutionary politics and who are also African American. He made the choice not to give them those relatively positive, if patronizing traits.
But I'm also going to add, isn't it possible that what he was doing with the Black people, he thought was being a noble savage? Like in a strange way, his degraded version of them led him to think this is actually a noble thing that they're doing. Because hold on, let me just put something out there. There was that article that I found where he was talking about how he found Jungle Pussy. It was on IndieWire. And he said that he was at a Tame Impala concert, which is very fitting. And then he saw her on stage and he was so inspired, he created a character also named Jungle Pussy for her. But
are you serious?
Yes. So I'm gonna read from it now. So he said that his agent reached out to her and asked for her number. He wanted to talk to her. And then he told her he was crafting a far left vigilante based on her stage persona. And the screenwriter, this guy Mikhail, said, and this pussy don't pop for you is the name of one of her songs.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it was like Jungle Pussy for real until I got really close to locking it in. The screenwriter said he gave me a hard copy of the script, And when I was reading it, I was like, what is this? And then I saw my name in there. This is her. And I saw my lyrics in there. And I saw all these pussy references. I was gagged. That's Jungle Pussy talking about how happy she was. And then she said, you know, even before shooting, however, astrology was a key topic of conversation. Tiana's a Sag. Regina Hall's a Sag. Alana Haim's a Sag. Mikhail said, that's Jungle Pussy. One day, me and Paul were texting before we started filming. A lot of sense, and he thought I was a Sag too. He's like, yeah, you know, I got all these badass Sagittarius women in the French 75. Let's talk about how superficial this is. And I was like, yeah, I'm a Scorpio. He was like, okay, you're hired. So that was the conversation that they had. That was the whole inspiration of crafting Jungle Pussy, talking about zodiac signs. And I went to a Tame Impala concert, and I'm pretty sure it was turned on. After reading the one battle after another script, however, Mikhail asked Anderson to make some changes to her character. Quote, he's writing and directing, so he wants to control everything, she said. But I was just like, Paul, I am Jungle Pussy. This is me. I have to be Jungle Pussy after this movie. I was Jungle Pussy before this movie. And while I love the collaboration you're cooking up, I still have some non-negotiables. There were things I was like, okay, hard no on this. Jungle Pussy would never like ever. So the idea that these people have no agency in the role they're playing, I think, is betrayed right there. But then it goes on to say that she wrote the monologue basically for the bank robbery, and she did all that stuff. So it's like, do you blame Paul Thomas for that? Do you blame her? Like, that's what I'm saying. The noble savage him might have been the noble savage him might have been like, I want to defer to what she wants to do. She's this raw savage person. So it's like
noble savage. It's just savage.
Okay, it's savage. But he might think it's noble of him as a white liberal to defer to her and not tell her what to do and how to express being a black woman.
I don't think it's about that. It's about him basically, frankly, to be honest, exploiting people who have no real Tiana Taylor has acted in movies. Jungle Pussy is a hip hop artist who's not even, I mean, I'm sure she's successful.
I think you froze.
Am I frozen? Am I frozen? Oh, sorry.
No, I think I was frozen.
Sorry. For a second.
A white director's choice, one of the most esteemed living white director's choice, to not write lines. If I were in a movie acting alongside Leonardo DiCaprio and Paul Thomas Anderson said to me, Brianna, why don't you just riff? Why don't you just, whatever you say?
Go do that jazz, Brianna.
Sorry,
but you said
go do that jazz. give him the jazz and riff.
Just spit, Brianna. Just spit on the mic. Like, I would be like,
you could even hear the Hollywood Shuffle line where he would say to her, "But could you do it again a little blacker next time?"
Exactly.
Stick your ass out. Stick your ass out.
Right.
Exactly. And so I don't blame Jungle Pussy because it's not her movie and it's not her job. Her job is to play a character on stage. It was Paul Thomas Anderson's choice to see her write a leftist character about her. What? I'm sorry. Let's bring her back up on the screen.
But I feel like we're infantilizing her because she said herself that she vetoed a lot of stuff.
No. What did she veto? What is she going to veto? Like what?
What about seeing this woman in concert made Paul Thomas Anderson say, you know what? I'm inspired to write a left revolutionary character. No disrespect to her and what she does. This is not Jungle Pussy's fault. What made Paul Thomas Anderson look at this woman and say, Assata Shakur, like we gotta write a left revolutionary character based on her?
My worry is that I feel like it's kind of classes to say because she's not educated or whatever. She can't, like Fannie Lou Hamer wasn't technically.
I didn't say she wasn't educated. I said she's not an actor with power in Hollywood and experience acting. I did not say she wasn't.
It's not even, and I agree with Brianna in this, and it's not, Trevor, for me, it's not even a question of her competence. It's a question of the intent by those with the power in this situation.
Yeah, I'm not letting him off the hook for sure.
The very approach, and one of my we happened to look this up, and I'm happy to be checked on this, but we did a quick Google during one of my class discussions today, and it was discovered that somewhere around 0.03% of all the scripts that are submitted to Hollywood get turned into actual films produced into film. So it's not even 1% of the. So if we start to look at the process by which Warner Brothers decides which films it's going to fund, green light, put onto the screen, we go through all of that and get to all the way down to where this is the choice of the film and the director, this is the screen, this is the screenplay, this is the story, this is, by the time you get to all of that, and then you get DiCaprio, you get Sean Penn, you get whomever else, and then you turn around, and I think this is a very compelling argument, and then you say, no, sis, go ahead and riff. And it's like, it's conveying, to me, it's conveying a true sign of disrespect. I just want to quickly go back to this last point about why they would show the Latinos being organized. Sure. To me, especially after hearing more about all of this, it again, maybe it's confirmation bias. I'm open to that, but it's just reaffirming this point that he's not taking any of this seriously. It's very much in the same way. Any colonial power is happy to recognize the ant-like, roach-like persistence of the colonized to find ways to evade the La Migra and the like the ice race. Like, look at how they can have a dojo and they can quickly. Now, they can't do any of that for an actual movement that's going to liberate anybody or threaten the established power or certainly join a more militant. None of that. No. But when it comes to running around and with their little Rube Goldberg, style maze-like setup in the back, it's like, yeah, they can do all of that, but they're not doing anything more grand. Nothing more grand than that can be taken seriously at all. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in real quick.
Fair enough. Okay, one thing I want to get to, make sure we get to before we wrap, is the choice to invent the white supremacist Christmas organization. I read it as, and again, feel free to disagree with me, it felt to me like we live in a world with a lot of real institutional power and oppression. And there's allusions to that world. We see people in some kind of ICE detention center. There's clearly a U.S. military. We're living in there's an allusion to the idea that we're living in similarly dystopic times that we're living in today with some kind of broadening authoritarianism. That being said, the main antagonist is not this kind of DEA type agent that we get in the book. It is this invented, although there are some parallels to real life, skull and bone style white supremacist organization with this cartoonish name of the Christmas. What do they call them?
So something with Chris, I forget.
The Christmas characters. We'll call them until I have the time to Google it and look it up.
The Christmas character.
And the motivation, what the Christmas characters are all about, is not entirely clear. We just know that it's sinister because they're weird and they meet underground in weird suburban settings with stuffed ducks and dioramas behind them. And that the main driver for the context of this movie is that they want to admit Sean Penn's character, but they can't if he has had a mixed race daughter out there in the world that is proof that he has once bedded a black woman, which,
any physical contact with a black woman would disqualify him.
Right. So what did you guys make of all of that?
I have a theory about that. I was thinking about that, especially the last scene. And I know I'm being a dead horse here, but the whole, again, Gen X white filmmaker thing is shot through this, and they don't really think very much about organized left, organized right, whatever. It's very much establishment versus vaguely anti-establishment, this vague sense of anti-conformity, the punk rock versus the suits. I think it's very telling. Like you think things like Office Space, American Beauty, Fight Club, Empire Records, Ghost World, American Psycho, Joker, Slacker, Dazed and Confused. There's always this thing about the outsider, the nonconformist, and the pressure to conform, and the worst emblem, the worst symbol of conformity is the corporation, upper management, and the office. And I think it's very interesting that the ultimate manifestation of fascism that this guy can think of, it's not like what the terror that fascism really is, and we're seeing it with mass deportations, whatever. The ultimate final form, the final Pokemon evolution, is office with a computer and a corporation. I just think that's the limit of this man's imagination. I think he just couldn't really fathom it in any other way unless he made some kind of weird fraternity / boys club / corporation. This was my thought.
I mean, I think it's also very consistent with a generational thing, to your point, T, of like the obsession with like the Illuminati when we were young.
Yeah.
The Bilderberg group, right? With that was really what made Alex Jones known on the early days of the internet, was him, uncovering the Bilderbergs and all of that. And then I do think some of the stuff with like Peter Thiel, the Dark Enlightenment stuff, that is kind of out there. And I think there is a thing.
Those Dan Brown books. Remember those Dan Brown books?
And I think another thing, though, and I think is because Paul Thomas Anderson, he's stated several times that, like, even though he's a really well-known director, he, still has to kind of beg for money. Like, he can't automatically get that $130 million. So, like people like David Lynch have done this before, where they constantly do these little antagonistic pokes.
Yes.
At the kind of like higher people up in there, right, in their movies, right? You see it in Mulholland Drive. That's the girl, right? And they like control his movie, and they're like a gangster people. So I think he's kind of trying to invoke that. And I think at the end of the day, the studios don't give a fuck about it because, like, they know it's so silly, right?
Yeah,
he
exactly.
has no real. It's like a kid
it's
whining.
Toothless.
Really,
yeah.
It's toothless, right? It's like a kid whining and all that type of stuff. So he'll just make like a little cute type of thing. But what it does, to T's point, is that it obfuscates what fascism really is, what our political moment really is. Does he really care about that? I don't know. I don't know if he really has a read. I mean, the man is so freaking rich. And remember, Paul Thomas Anderson has been famous and big for a really long time. Like, he hasn't been connected to any of this stuff for like really the majority of his adult life. Right? He became a big Hollywood director in his 20s. Right. So he's not connected to anything real, and anything is going to kind of be in his weird imagination. Right. So, yeah. So that's kind of how I read that. I read it as a very toothless, just, in a way, they're just as much a joke as the left is. And there you go. It's, horseshoe theory having another kind of like degenerative, analog for us to watch.
So I agree with all of that. But I admit where I was stuck in my own biased, subjective experience with this film. So to me, this was, especially after this conversation, I feel so reaffirmed that what Paul Thomas Anderson was doing was that, again, Lockjaw and that organization are his settler colonial conservative side at struggle with his DiCaprio liberal side, and he's trying to kill the nationalist in himself so that he can enjoy his real life black wife and relatively mixed race so-called daughter. And that, so to me, that's the
wife, to be clear, and his more mixed race.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And I think that's what I'm saying, that even with his very fair-skinned mixed race wife, and they're now however you would define their child, I don't want to overstep my bounds here, is whatever they are in his mind's eye. And this is where I've sometimes run afoul of some folks in my own analysis with this, is that even those of us who are fairer skinned, even those of us with white parents, in the mind's eye of white supremacist settler colonialism, we project as the darkest, scariest, blackest thing they can come up with. So in their mind's eye, they don't differentiate in the way many of us are encouraged to do. So in his mind's eye, he's like, I gotta come to terms with this. I have this black woman fetish. I got this black woman and mixed biracial family and wife and daughter. I'm struggling to come to terms with this. I got to kill off this nationalism, get with the liberalism, and come back to some sort of, and who knows? And this is the same thing I've asked questions in my own, small way around with Jordan Peele. Like, I'm super curious what their personal conversations are like.
Yeah.
Their family conversation. Like, what is Maya Rudolph and their daughter having, what are the conversations like at the dinner table? Or, what, but I that's what I think. I think that's what we see in the film. This is him, and why I think so many white moviegoers have appreciated this film because I think that they are unconsciously, or maybe not, having that same struggle experience and struggle play out.
Yeah, and I just want to add one point. Something that really stuck out me to the movie was the fact that they actually didn't kill Sean Penn's character when the guy shot him, right?
Yeah.
The fact that he gets to walk up like a badass, right? And the fact that we have in our brains that Willa is his daughter. The fact that like what kind of makes her like part
resilient.
Of being next level, right, is the fact that she has, you know, the kind of godfather or the non-biological father nurturing DiCaprio. She has the genes of the savage black woman and the genes of the savage white man, and now she's gonna go out and, you know, do her Batman thing.
I'm so glad.
Said, what? And I'm like, what the hell is in your brain?
I'm so glad you said that, because my final point was going to be about the weird race science in this. There's a weird race science in this, and in the car, Sean Penn even says like, I could smell a part of your essence in her. There's this kind of weird thing that even though she wasn't actually raised by Perfidia, she's got some of the savage in her. It's in the genes. And even like the black nun who thinks she's a rat, she knows she didn't grow up in Perfidia, but it's almost like it's in the genes. You might have that rat essence. You know, there's this weird kind of
it's
thing.
total Hobbes and Locke shit. Like,
and it's got that element to it. Like, if you show up to be my daughter biologically, I have to kill you. So there's some kind of like, and I feel like the daughter is really more representative of his real life wife than she is of his real life daughter. Like he's been intertwined genetically with blackness, but he's with somebody who he can't even count on to help him navigate it because she didn't grow up with her own mother. And I feel like he probably feels that way maybe to a degree being married to Maya Rudolph. Like, okay, blackness is part of my life, and we're in this world of Black Lives Matter meets Trump and meets George Floyd and all this stuff. So I'm a part of it, but even the black person I'm with can't really help me navigate it because she grew up with, you know, a white person. So then, and it is the feeling where I feel like, okay.
So if people don't know, Minnie Riperton died when Maya Rudolph was very young. So the idea being that she didn't grow up with her black
abandoned,
mother.
Right? But she might have felt that way, and that's depicted in the film. Oh wow!
And how versed was she in black culture? Like, can she help navigate him through as an ally? What did I sign up for? Like, I'm dealing with the effects of this, but you can't even, as a black person, help me navigate these thoughts. And I felt like I was watching somebody who was struggling with the allure of a drug, and he found the perfect stepped-on version of it, which is the biracial. Like, it's like, you know, the pure uncut is too much. But you know,
be stepped on. This is just traumatic.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think this way. I feel like that's the feeling I got from him. Like, this is.
No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, the pure uncut version is like, you know what I thought of when I thought of this? Like, what's the rock bottom in Boogie Nights, and for the character, and it's like it's crack, like the niggerized version of cocaine, like, you know, his flirtation with guns, and like if you get too far into the blackness, you can't turn back. You're gonna be like, you know, I find it very interesting that it was specifically crack, freebase, the black form of cocaine smoking that makes Mark Wahlberg realize I'm too far. I'm actually going to become a N-word if I keep a spiritual N-word, like, you know. And I felt like that's kind of like the struggle with Perfidia. Like, she's going to debase me, but the biracial is like the best of all worlds. Kind of to what Mtume was saying about the walk. She has the warrior spirit of the mother, but with the good sides of both parts of Paul Anderson, the family values and loyalty of Leo, but the warrior of the white conservative thing. You know what I mean? And it's just, it was a
RoboCop, like, you know.
It was creepy as hell to me. This is a creepy movie to me.
Same.
It's very, I struggle with this. I think it's very funny, the idea that Paul Thomas Anderson has some tortured racial reckoning because his wife is half black and raised by a white family. Like, the idea, Maya Rudolph is so talented and lovely. This is Like,
Hey,
I
he
love
dated
her.
Fiona Apple before. That's like one of the whitest women. So by comparison, this is like a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, sure. But the idea that it's like, God, I really got to reckon with blackness because I'm married to Maya Rudolph. It's just like a very funny idea.
It might have nothing to. It could be as simple as like he had a conversation with him, and she said, "You can't understand." And white people often, when you tell them that thing about race, that shit bugs the shit out of them.
There's a line in the movie, quite literally. There's a scene that I saw white people gushing over, where he's in the car, I think, talking to Benicio del Toro, saying that he can never really understand, and he was struggling to do his daughter's hair.
Yeah, but I don't think it's pure. Oh my God, what did I do? I think it's a mix of this is scary, but it's adventure. Like I think there's an appeal and a repellence, and I think that's what creates the attraction. Like I don't think it's pure. What did I do? It's like, oh my God, what did I do? But also, oh, what did I do? I think it's a little bit of both. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So look, I think we've covered most of the ground. If there's a part of the movie that we haven't talked about, feel free to weigh in and bring it up. I feel very validated that we got to a bunch of the stuff, especially like the contrast between the Latino underground and the ostensibly Black underground. We didn't talk about the you like Black women, you must like Black women. Please pick me of the first part of the movie. Do you know what
No, but that's what I was saying, that so first of all, I just want to say that my own projection of my own experience and biases onto this film and speculation about Paul Thomas Anderson's struggles with his own marriage, et cetera, and so forth, are only based on what I saw him do with this film. The depiction of race and interracial relationships and revolutionary struggle is so disturbing in this film that it does lead me to raise questions, especially given what little I know about his personal life, that to what extent this is seeping in, because it is so bad. And then again, I can't even imagine what their conversations are like. Now, but I did just quickly, I did point out that again, I think it's important that both Lockjaw and DiCaprio have explicit moments where they're praising Black womanhood specifically and singularly.
Black womanhood or Black female sexuality? Okay,
better. Yes, that. Even more. Yes, you're right. Absolutely. Just that over. Yes, exactly.
And the idea that there's like it's like close, but only sometimes attainable. This pussy don't pop for you, but then it does. Sometimes it orders you to get a boner. Sometimes it lets you nut in her and knock her up and raise her child. And,
it's so perverse, man.
Sorry, I don't mean to be crass. I'm sorry. I just remembered where I was.
Oh, no. But I had that experience watching the film. I'm watching it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't saw it in a theater. I was in Pennsylvania. There's a bunch of white people in there. There was nobody Black in there. I was sitting in there. I was moving and shake and these people were transfixed with this movie. And I'm looking at them on the sides and I'm like, this is what, this kind of cinema does for these people. They get to have an experience where they can deal with these kinds of fantasias that they have about being leftist or race play, one, or being a right winger. If they want to be like Sean Penn, if they want to be like, choose your own adventure. This is like there is a whole
character. Oh, that's a good one.
There's a whole oeuvre of choices you have here, right? And you could be one at different moments. And I'm seeing them. I mean, it was crazy. This white woman started crying at the end. At the end, when DiCaprio and Willa reunite, she was crying. Oh, and then when she read the letter, when Mom's letter came, the Asada Shakur writes her daughter letter. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, really, I think the personal.
That's all it was.
I think the personal is where his heart is. Like, not really the political or systemic or anything. Like. I think that's where his heart was, because that was the closest I felt to feeling anything emotionally, even though I still agree that was ridiculous for her to cry. But I can understand why, of all scenes, that would have been the one, I guess. Because it was the most I felt something from him.
Where the hell has Perfidia been? In the book, to be clear, Perfidia.
Oh, no, I don't mean the letter, I mean the hug. As far as I can see why somebody would cry.
And Willow.
Yeah, I could see why someone would cry for that, because that was the first time I felt the closest to okay, I feel something of his heart in this.
it was weird. A lot of the write-ups were talking about how beautifully drawn and intimate the relationship between Leo and his daughter was. And I didn't think that was like poorly written, right? Like unlike other parts of the movie that I think were badly done. I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't think that was anything especially notable. Like it was serviceable, it moved the plot along, but I wasn't feeling like, oh my God, what a beautifully intimately drawn relationship between a father and daughter. They have so much in common. Look how they spend time together. Look how they connected. Look at the love between them. There was like nothing there. Like he did the job of literally putting a roof over her head, and he gave her the little tool that ended up saving her life that connected her with Regina Hall. But was there parenting happening? Was there tenderness?
No, I mean it was clearly pointed out that he was a pretty crappy parent. Like he went to her PTA meeting or a parent teacher conference or whatever, smoking the weed inside the spot, right? You know, yeah, he made jokes about settlers and racists, right? And then, you know, when he like when he's at the door with her friends, he doesn't know how to like interact, and they talk about how the dad's too controlling. Like, no, like
in fact, I think I would like to add to the list of my complaints the depiction of weed smokers in this film. Like, I feel like this is an unnecessary assault on that community. But yeah,
on that community.
But I feel for like white suburban movies, that's usually as deep as it gets. like it's like Lady Bird. Like what's the big thing? They're riding the car together. Like, to me, I think to white people, they have a very low bar of, you know, what counts as like a very emotional moment in a movie. Like, it's like,
wait a minute.
I hate you, Dad. I hate you, Mom. Okay, maybe I don't hate you. Oh, you know, that's all I've ever seen.
That's what Lady Bird. I disagree. Lady Bird was about that. Lady Bird was about a dysfunctional relationship between a mother and a daughter, right? And the movie was all about the dysfunction. This movie showed a dysfunctional relationship, and then all the reviews were about how beautiful the father-daughter relationship was.
What I can't, that to me is bizarre.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know,
because he doesn't even know where she's going at the end, right? He doesn't know who's training her, who she's working with. What kind of fatherhood is that? You just running out the house? Are you crazy?
That's where I was going to land, because at the end of the day, given everything that we've said about what this movie is supposed to be or not supposed to be about, how it does or does not feel about left movements, how are we supposed to read value-wise Willa's choice to go and continue her parents' work or whatever, doing her Batman routine? How does the movie seems to be saying this is a value-filled, worthwhile mission that our little hero who's gone through these trials of fire is going off into the world to do? How do we square that the movie is like, this is valuable, with its complete disinterest and even distaste for the work that her parents did in the beginning of the movie? Is the difference just that Willow didn't have a gun?
I think she's not doing it as part of an organization. I think she's doing it as her father's daughter and as an individual. Like, you know, this movie reminded me of a lot Damon Lindelof's Watchmen, and it was very, very similar. That's why I thought it was very interesting. It ended almost super heroically. But there was a quote from a article, and I thought it was such a perfect encapsulation of this white Gen X guy punk rock view of politics, and it was from Esquire, and this is paragraph. It goes, with its equal critiques of liberals and conservatives, Watchmen is shaping up to be the most controversial TV debut of the fall, and one of the most polarizing superhero stories ever told. That's in keeping with the original spirit of the text, according to Lindelof, and it has this quote from Lindelof. Lindelof says, quote, it's essentially saying we have a disdain for people at the center because they're not choosing a side, but we also have a disdain for people who are in the extreme because you can't live in the extremes. And so let's just take the piss out of everyone and ourselves in the process, he says. And this was praised as like great, deep politics. Like, what the fuck what does it even mean? We hate the center because they don't choose a side. We also hate the extremes because you can't live in the extremes. So let's take the piss out of everyone and ourselves. And I think ourselves is important because you bring up Leonardo DiCaprio and how the leftists look stupid. But I thought Leonardo DiCaprio looked stupid too. Like, he's asking for the manager like a Karen at the end. Like, right, no one looked good.
But Leo, who is Leo? Who is Leo making look stupid? If anything, he's a contributor. Him looking bad just continues making the left the left liberate the left agenda look bad, or he's just an individual guy who looks bad. So I don't mind, like, what are the critiques? And maybe this is the place that we can land, because I know we're coming up on 2 hours. But what are the critiques of people who've critiqued this movie along these lines has been, can't you just let these characters be flawed? They said to me and Van, like, you guys just don't want Black women to be flawed. You don't like flawed Black female characters. And I would argue, no, write a flawed Black character, but don't decline to write a character at all and throw a random hip hop star in a role and say that she's a stand-in for Black revolutionaries because you were lazy and so racist that you believe that any random Black person will provide the needed authenticity for a very specific kind of role.
First of all, can we? First of all, I just want to say, first of all, seeing interviews that Taylor is giving to promote this film, I think is false advertising. She's not in the film that much, and she's not a principal. Yeah, well, yeah, fair enough. But so those who would say critics are not being fair to a flawed Black character, I would agree with you. We don't get really any Black woman character or characterization. We don't get anything that would allow us to engage a nuanced and flawed and complicated person. We get, again, I agree with you, something silly that is seems to have been constructed on the fly, and based on limited experience with the genre. So that was it. That's it. Yeah.
For me, when does this point of these kind of statements, oh, you don't like a flawed character, is just being get out of criticism free card? Right? It's like they find a new way to kind of dodge. Look, I saw that thing with Van, and he said about the people he's with on his podcast, and they say like artists should have. I don't believe that. You're accountable to people, because literally, if you're taking things from the world, you're taking people's stories. No, you do not come from things outside of your brain. We live in a world of the commons. I know capitalism makes everything I think is fucking private, but that's not how it exists, really, if you really think about it. So you are accountable to people, and they should be able to call you out if the shit is not right. And you can't just say, well, let me be my own individual artist. Then you're just being a selfish individualist asshole, in my opinion.
Also, I'm sorry, white people. If I wrote a not about Bob Dylan movie, but it was about Schlob Flillen, and I made everything about him wrong. I made him Catholic. I made him, do just stuff that like canonical.
You made him a gangster rapper,
right? Like if I made him horrible, if I made him a rapist, like if I did all this stuff to Schmob Schmillen, the white people would be trying to have my head.
And you had Steve Nash play him, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right. If I did a fake documentary about the Schmeedles, the Liverpool rock band, the Termites, you know what I mean? People would be pissed. I did an episode back in the early days of this podcast about how like the Beatles were like mid, and people still get mad at me about it from time to time.
Oh, let me co-sign that. The Beatles are one of the most overrated bands in the history of music. Get the hell out of here. They get way too much credit. Enough.
Yo,
way overrated.
I put a link in the chat, and it's from the Tame Impala Reddit, which is where Jungle Pussy opened for. And it's all these people hating her because because Tame Impala is just like one of the whitest groups, very chill. And Jungle Pussy is very raunchy. And it's just all these people saying that she was a bad fit. She'd be better for a Nicki Minaj concert or something like that. Because she's really raunchy. So I'm like, again, I think if you think about this, again, like almost like a porn parody, like Black Lives Matter or Mandingo. Like if you think about it in terms of that, and it's like, he says that at a Tame Impala concert, instead of being horrified like the average Tame Impala fan, because of how raunchy it was, he's saying that he wanted to put her in his movie, in his porn parody. It's not because of the leftist part, it's because of the fetish part. I think he was inspired because I think he was probably like feeling the way below the belt. You know what I'm saying? I think that's really what it kind of came down to. I don't think he was really inspired by the leftist side of what he saw on that stage. I think
I see. You're saying it was so radical and unexpected. Like it was like tonally so different than what you would expect at a Tame Impala concert, that he was sort of radicalized and shocked, like he'd never seen anything like this before.
No, I think it's very interesting that the average Tame Impala fan was horrified because it was so sexual. But this guy says in an interview, wow, I got to put her in the movie. Why did this thing that was so sexually overt and out of character for the average Tame Impala fan, something that inspired him to put her in this movie? Like, it doesn't sound like there was a lot of leftist themed stuff happening on that stage, because all these fans just talk about sex. And I just think it was, he found it titillating. I think there's a temptation, because he hired her to do this role, to think of him thinking like terms of revolution. I also don't think he was. I think it's just a framing device. I
agree. I agree. It's also it's just so funny to me to think, oh my God, I have a black fetish. So that, and I'm titillated by like a hip hop artist who's wearing like provocative clothes and popping her pussy on stage. And I satisfy that desire by marrying Maya Rudolph.
Or at least I'm going to create a character and a role for her to play in one of my movies. And then I'm just going to tell her to show up and do your thing, girl. Do your thing.
But what's the end game? What's the end game of the movie is his daughter. So I think, I think he doesn't want the uncut thing. The goal at the end of the day is the daughter / Maya.
And what he doesn't want is for his daughter to walk off into her blackness. And that's why the movie ends the way it ends. I'm convinced of that. I am absolutely convinced of that. So yeah.
Well, you, our mixed race emissary, are allowed and positioned to opine on such things. I'm going to stay in my black lane and just offer my critique.
You stay in your fully black lane and let me do my half black analysis myself.
That's what we're here for, not half cocked analysis.
Yeah.
No Sean Penn.
All of you. Shame on all of you.
Yo, I said nothing.
Yeah, we're just bystanders, me and them two, man.
I'm just like.
Let me log us off. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time tonight, gentlemen. We covered a lot of really good ground. Tell the people where to find more of you and your work on the internet and beyond. Let's start with you, Mtume.
You can find me within our gate, Sir Toombs, on IG. I'm also doing the Imperial 80s on with Millennials Are Killing Capitalism. You can find me there. Yeah, and I'm around. Just look, Mtume Gant.
Amazing. T?
You could find me on 2 podcasts, Champagne Sharks, and then there's a movie podcast I do partnered with screenwriter Josh Olson called The White Cannon. Check both of them out. You can Google them and find them.
All right, Jared Ball.
I Mix What I Like at I Mix What I Like, and Saturdays with Renee, and contributing otherwise from time to time at Black Liberation Media. So yeah, you can. I'm not hard to find, and thank you all very much. This has been dope. And salute to everybody who was in the audience as well.
Thank you.
Yes, this has been an amazing super panel. It really scratched an itch. I had notes and notes to get off of my mind, and they have all been dumped into this conversation. You guys who are watching, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel so you get notifications. I'm trying to do more live streams. At least one a week is my new goal, to help get us more reach on the podcast and more reach on this channel. So don't forget to subscribe. I've been told the notifications don't actually work. So let's subscribe to over time and leave comments, etc., to help boost us in the algorithm. You can get Bad Faith Podcast every Thursday for free. There's a real banger of one coming up this Thursday. Should I tell you who's on it? I'm going to tell you. It's Richard Wolff and Butch Ware together breaking down the Gavin Newsom interview on higher learning. And it came out better than my wildest expectations. So you're going to want to subscribe so you don't miss that when it drops for free on Thursday. And of course, you can get an extra episode of Bad Faith Podcast every Monday by subscribing at patreon.com/badfaithpodcast. All right. Take care of yourselves. And as always, keep the faith. Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Peace.